The rain-slicked pavement of Elmwood's main drag gleamed like a promise broken underfoot as Eric Harlan stepped off the Greyhound, his boots hitting the ground with the weight of 12 unforgiving years. Blood from that long-ago night still echoed in his veins, a phantom pulse that had carried him across state lines and back again. But tonight, it demanded reckoning. He was 28 now, no longer the boy they'd left crumpled in the alley behind the old diner, but the scar on his face, a jagged lightning bolt from temple to jaw, whispered otherwise, a map of betrayal etched in flesh. Eric's breath fogged the chill December air, his duffel bag slung over one shoulder like an anchor to the life he'd fled. The town hadn't changed much. The same sagging neon sign on the 5 Points diner flickered open in half-hearted invitation. The same rusted chain-link fence bordered the high school football field where cheers once masked uglier truths. He could still hear the jeers, feel the boot connect with his ribs. Freak, sinner, spat like venom from boys he'd called friends. But it was Jonathan's silence that cut deepest. The boy who'd kissed him in secret under the bleachers, who watched from the shadows as the mob descended, his eyes wide with something between horror and complicity. He'd come back not for ghosts, but to bury them. The city owed him, owed every kid like him, a debt soaked in indifference. Eric tightened his grip on the crumpled letter in his pocket, the one from the ACLU lawyer who'd seen his op-ed in the Times. Elmwood's open wound, how one town's hate still bleeds. Tonight, he'd start with the mayor's office, then the school board, peeling back the layers of denial until the truth bled out for all to see. The diner's door chimed as Eric pushed inside, the bell's trill slicing through the hum of late-night regulars nursing coffees and regrets. Heads turned, subtle at first, then sharper, whispers rippling like smoke. "That's Harlan's boy," muttered old Mr. Greeley from the counter, his fork pausing mid-bite. "Back from wherever the devil spit him out." Eric ignored them, sliding into a booth by the window, the vinyl creaking under him like a confession. The waitress, a woman with tired eyes and a name tag reading Doris, approached with a pot of decaf, her gaze snagging on his scar before darting away. "Coffee, hon?" she asked, voice soft as worn flannel. "Black," he replied, his drawl pure Appalachia-tinged Midwest, the kind that fooled you into thinking he was harmless. She poured, lingered a beat too long. "You look familiar. Passing through hell, maybe." His smile didn't reach his eyes. She chuckled uneasily and retreated, leaving him to the menu he didn't need. He'd grown up on these plates. Greasy eggs and hash browns that stuck to your ribs like guilt. Outside, the rain picked up, drumming the glass like impatient fingers. Eric's phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Lila, up in Chicago. "You sure about this? Town ain't worth the salt in your wounds." He typed back, "Some wounds need airing." Truth was, he'd rehearsed this homecoming 1,000 times in dingy motel rooms and bustling newsrooms, where his bylines on queer rights had earned him a fragile fame. But here, in the flesh, it felt like stepping into a cage with wolves who'd long forgotten their prey had grown claws. The door chimed again, and Eric's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Jonathan Hale stood there, taller than memory, his broad shoulders filling the frame of his wool coat. Blonde hair cropped close like he'd joined the service and regretted it. Those blue eyes, storm-tossed oceans Eric had once drowned in, swept the room and locked on him, widening in a flicker of recognition that twisted into something raw, unguarded. The air thickened, charged as the moment before thunder. "Eric." Jonathan's voice cracked on the name, low and rough, like gravel under tires. He didn't move, rooted by the threshold, rain dripping from his collar onto the welcome mat. Eric set his fork down deliberately, the clink echoing. "In the flesh. You gonna stand there all night? Or buy me that coffee you owe?" The words hung, laced with 12 years of unspoken accusations. Jonathan swallowed hard, crossing the diner in 3 strides, sliding into the booth opposite without invitation. Up close, the lines around his eyes spoke of sleepless nights, the faint stubble shadowing a jaw that had once been boyishly smooth. He smelled of cedar and wet earth, the same cologne from stolen summer nights. "God, I heard rumors you might come back." After the article. Jonathan's hands flexed on the table, calloused from construction work, Eric guessed. Hale men always built things or broke them. Eric leaned back, arms crossed, the scar pulling tight. Rumors don't do justice. You look like shit, John. A ghost of a laugh escaped Jonathan, bitter as black coffee. Pot, kettle. That scar. His gaze traced it, fingers twitching as if to reach out, then falling back. I never wanted. Save it. Eric cut him off, voice steel-wrapped silk. I didn't come for apologies. I came for the truth. The whole damn town needs to hear it. Doris returned with a mug for Jonathan, her eyes darting between them like she was piecing together a puzzle from faded headlines. On the house, boys. Old times sake. Jonathan nodded thanks, but his focus stayed pinned on Eric, intense, searching. What truth? You think I forgot? I replay that night every goddamn day. Then tell me why. Eric's whisper was a blade, honed by therapy sessions and activist rallies. Why you stood there, John? Why you let them? The diner faded around them, the rain a curtain sealing their booth into confession. Jonathan's face crumpled. The dam breaking. Because I was scared. Scared of losing everything. My family, the team, this shithole town. And you. You were everything to me, Eric. My first, my only. I thought if I stayed quiet, it'd blow over. But it didn't. It broke us. Eric's chest tightened, the old ache flaring like a bruise pressed too hard. He'd loved Jonathan fiercely at 16, with the reckless fire of firsts. Kisses in the hayloft, promises whispered against skin under starlit fields. But love turned to ash when Jonathan's silence became complicity, when the blows landed and no hand reached to pull him up. You broke me worse than their fists, Eric said, voice steady despite the storm inside. Left me bleeding in that alley, wondering if you'd ever cared. Jonathan's eyes glistened, unshed tears catching the diner's yellow light. I cared too much. Ran to the hospital after, begged the cops to do something. But they said it was kids being kids. Buried it. My dad, he was sheriff then, told me to keep my mouth shut, or we'd both end up like you. The revelation landed like a sucker punch. Eric's mind reeled, piecing fragments. The hushed investigations, the family's iron grip on Elmwood's secrets. Hale blood ran deep here, tangled in politics and pulpits. Then help me now, Eric pressed, leaning forward, their knees brushing under the table. A spark neither acknowledged. The city's dragging its feet on that anti-hate ordinance. Testimonies from folks like us could change that. Or are you still too scared? Jonathan's jaw clenched, conflict etching deeper lines. I'm not that boy anymore. Lost my marriage. Yeah, tried the straight path like Dad wanted. Kids don't talk to me much. But you. Seeing you here, it's like the world's tilting back. Eric searched his face, hunting for lies, finding only fractured honesty. The rain eased to a drizzle, streetlights haloing the window. Maybe this was the hook, the pull of what-ifs, the romance of redemption neither had earned. Tomorrow, Eric said finally, meet me at the old bleachers. Bring whatever spine you've grown. Jonathan nodded, sliding out of the booth, but paused, hand on Eric's shoulder. A touch electric, tentative. I'm sorry, Eric, for all of it. As the door chimed shut behind him, Eric exhaled, the weight shifting, not lighter but shared. The city slept on, oblivious, but dawn would bring the reckoning. And in its light, perhaps something more, a second chance, scarred but whole. The bleachers loomed like skeletal sentinels under the gray morning sky, dew-kissed and silent. The football field beyond a muddy scar on Elmwood's pride. Eric arrived early, thermos of coffee in hand, the steam curling like unanswered questions as he climbed to their old spot. The third row from the bottom, where the slats creaked just right under two teenage weights. He dreamed of this place in nightmares and fevered hopes alike, the metal cool against his back now, grounding him as the town stirred awake below. Cars hummed along Route 9, factory whistles piercing the mist from the paper mill on the outskirts. Elmwood was the kind of American heartland relic that postcards romanticized but locals endured. cornfields framing clapboard houses, a main street dotted with flag-draped barbershops and Baptist steeples, where family values meant locking away anything that didn't fit the frame. Eric had bolted at 18, hitchhiking to Chicago with a backpack and a burning resolve, piecing together a life from barista shifts and community college courses. Journalism found him there, his voice sharpening on op-eds about the kids left behind in towns like this. Queer ghosts haunting straight-laced streets. Footsteps crunched gravel, and Jonathan appeared at the field's edge, hands shoved deep in his pockets, breath visible in the crisp air. He wore faded jeans and a flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms roped with muscle from hauling lumber at the local yard. No wedding ring dimple on his finger, Eric noted, filing it away like evidence. "You came," Eric said, unscrewing the thermos cap, pouring a second cup without asking. "Wouldn't miss it." Jonathan took the offering, their fingers brushing. A jolt that lingered warm against the cold metal. He settled beside Eric, close enough for heat to bridge the gap, but not touching. The silence stretched, companionable yet charged, broken only by a distant crow's caw. "Tell me about the last 12 years, Jonathan prompted, sipping slowly. "The real stuff, not the headlines." Eric chuckled dryly, staring at the goalposts like they held answers. "Headlines are the real stuff. Marched in D.C. for marriage equality. Buried friends lost to the plague before the pills came. Wrote for the Windy City Times. Exposed a cluster of bashings in Boys Town that the cops ignored. Got a scar on my soul to match this one." He traced the line on his face absently. "You?" Jonathan's gaze dropped to his boots. "Stayed. Dad retired, handed the hardware store to me. Married Sarah from the choir, high school sweetheart, or so I told myself. 2 girls, Emma and Grace. Last year, she found my browser history, the forums I lurked on. Said she couldn't compete with ghosts. Divorce was quiet. Town's still pretending." "Ghosts?" Eric echoed, the word tasting like ash. "That's what I was to you? A specter to chase in the dark?" "No." Jonathan turned, eyes fierce. "You were light, Eric. The only honest thing in this lie of a life. That night, I drove by the alley on my way home. Saw you there. Called 911 from a payphone 2 blocks away. Too chicken shit to stay." The admission hung, a thread pulling at the seams of Eric's resolve. He'd imagined Jonathan's betrayal as malice, but this cowardice born of love's terror, stung deeper, human and flawed. "Why now?" Eric asked, voice low. "Why show up last night, after all this time?" "Because reading your piece gutted me. You called out the school for ignoring the bullying, the cops for classifying it as a prank. And you were right. Dad covered it up. Said it was to protect the good boys from records that had ruined scholarships. But it ruined you. And me." Eric's throat tightened, memories flooding. The hospital sterile and echoing, Lila smuggling him comics while their parents prayed for healing. The trial that never happened, the whispers that followed him through graduation. "The city's paying now," he said. "ACLU's filing suit for systemic negligence. Want in? Your name carries weight here." Jonathan hesitated, jaw working. "Dad's still alive, Eric. Influential. He'd fight it. Then let him. This isn't about settling scores. It's about making sure no kid ends up like us." The us slipped out, unintended, wrapping them in shared history. Jonathan's hand found Eric's on the bleacher slat, tentative, then firm. A lifeline tossed across chasms. "Okay, I'm in." They sat like that as the sun crested, gilding the field in reluctant gold. Below, the high school bus rumbled up, disgorging kids in hoodies and backpacks, laughter brittle in the wind. One boy, slight with eyeliner smudged defiant, glanced their way, curiosity flickering before he hurried inside. Eric's heart twisted. Progress was glacial here, but visible. By noon, they were at the community center, Jonathan introducing Eric to a cluster of locals he'd rallied. Pastor Ruiz from the Inclusive Methodist Church, down with the fight. Ms. Callahan, the librarian who'd lost a son to suicide after similar taunts. The meeting buzzed with purpose. Petitions circulated, stories shared in hushed tones. Eric spoke last, his voice steady, weaving his alleyway hell into a call for change. We can't erase the scars, but we can stop handing out the knives. Jonathan watched from the back, pride mingling with ache in his eyes. Afterward, as the group dispersed, he caught Eric at the door. Lunch? My treat. Neutral ground, the park by the river. Eric nodded, the invitation a bridge he wasn't ready to burn. The park was Elmwood's green lung, willows draping the banks of the lazy Wabash, picnic tables scarred by initials from generations of carved hearts. They claimed one under a pavilion, sandwiches from the deli unwrapped with awkward small talk. Weather, the Mills layoffs, the Bears' slim playoff chances. Tell me something true, Eric said between bites, chasing vulnerability with brine. What kept you here, really? With all this regret. Jonathan leaned back, skyward gaze tracing contrails. Stubbornness, maybe, or hope that one day I'd fix it. After the divorce, I started volunteering at the youth center. Nothing big, just coaching basketball, listening when they talk. Few kids. They're like we were. Hiding. Eric's sandwich paused mid-air. And you tell them to be brave? Try to. Jonathan's smile was wry. Coming from the king of closets. The jab landed light, but Eric felt the undercurrent. Their shared failures. I came out loud and proud in Chicago. Parades, protests. But here, feels like starting over. Not alone this time. Jonathan's hand covered his again, deliberate, thumb tracing a knuckle. The touch ignited embers long banked, warmth spreading like dawn. Eric didn't pull away, letting the moment breathe. The river's murmur a soft underscore. Afternoon waned into amber, walkers strolling paths, dogs splashing shallows. They talked of dreams deferred. Eric's book on rural queer survival. Jonathan's vague itch for art school he'd buried under duty. Laughter crept in, tentative, reminiscing the time they'd snuck beers from the cooler and philosophized under fireflies. The world vast and kind. As shadows lengthened, Jonathan walked Eric to his motel on the edge of town, the neon vacancy sign buzzing like nerves. At the door, hesitation mirrored their youth. Tomorrow's the school board, Eric said. You coming? Wouldn't miss it. Jonathan lingered, then cupped Eric's cheek, thumb grazing the scar's edge, gentle, reverent. You're braver than I ever was. Their lips met then, soft as forgiveness, tasting of salt and second tries. It wasn't fire, not yet, just a spark, promising more if fanned. Eric broke it first, breathless. Night, John. Inside, door clicked shut. Eric leaned against it, heart hammering. The city was waking to his war, but this quiet reclaiming felt like victory's prelude. The school board meeting convened in the high school's auditorium, a cavern of varnished wood and faded banners proclaiming, Huskies, heart, hustle, home. Folding chairs scraped as locals filed in, a mix of curious farmers in Carhartt jackets, teachers with clipboards clutched like shields, and a smattering of protesters outside waving signs. Protect our kids' privacy versus love wins in Elmwood. Eric slipped in through a side door, Jonathan a shadow at his elbow, the press of bodies amplifying the knot in his gut. They claimed seats midway back, the air thick with coffee breath and murmured agendas. Mayor Ellis, a portly man with a comb-over and a penchant for platitudes, called order, his gavel a perfunctory tap. Item 7. The proposed anti-bullying policy expansion, inclusive language for gender identity and sexual orientation. Murmurs swelled. Approval from the left, grumbles from the right. First speaker. A mother, tear-streaked, recounting her trans daughter's cafeteria shaming. Applause rippled, tentative. Then a deacon, Bible in hand, thundering about moral confusion. Boos answered, the room fracturing like thin ice. Eric's name came up third, penciled in by allies. He rose, pulse thundering, the scar itching under spotlights. Jonathan's hand squeezed his knee under the table. Anchor, not chain. Mr. Harlan, the board chair prompted, voice neutral as paste. Eric stepped to the podium, notes folded in his pocket but unneeded. This was etched deeper than ink. Good evening. I'm Eric Harlan, class of '09. Some of you remember me, or wish you didn't. A titter, uneasy. At 16, I was dragged behind the 5 Points diner, beaten for being gay. Left bleeding, ribs cracked, face carved open. The boy who held my hand through it all? Silent. The authorities? Absent. Gasps dotted the crowd, head swiveling. He pressed on, voice rising like a tide. That wasn't a one-off. It was Elmwood's policy unwritten. Look away, and the problem vanishes. But scars don't. I stand here not for pity, but progress. Vote yes on this ordinance. Teach our kids compassion, not complicity. He sat to scattered claps, thunderous in his ears. Jonathan's eyes shone. Pride, yes, but something tenderer, a rekindling gaze. Next up, Jonathan Hale. The room hushed as he approached. Hale name a local talisman. Jonathan Hale, he began, steady. Son of former Sheriff Hale. Brother to half this board. Chuckles acknowledged the truth. I was there that night. Watched it happen to a boy I loved. Did nothing. Cowardice plain. But I've spent years regretting, rebuilding. Our youth center sees 10 kids a week wrestling the same demons. This policy is a lifeline. Vote yes for them, for us. The applause swelled genuine now, crossing aisles. Whispers followed. Hale boys coming out? About time. Eric caught Jonathan's eye across the aisle. A nod exchanged. Alliance forged in firelight. But the tide turned with Councilman Greer, a ruddy-faced relic with oil-slick hair. Fine words, boys, but this ain't Chicago. We're God-fearing folk. Adding your preferences to policy opens floodgates. Bathrooms, sports, chaos. Murmurs agreed, a block hardening. Eric's jaw set. He'd anticipated pushback, but the venom stung fresh. As the vote loomed, a side door banged open. Sheriff Harlan, no, wait. Former Sheriff Hale, Jonathan's father, barreling in with a face like storm clouds. Hold up, this vote's premature. Legal concerns. The chair banged gavel. Sheriff, Mr. Hale. Public comments closed. Not for me. He loomed at the podium, voice booming. My boy's been fed lies. That night, prank gone wrong. No hate, just high spirits. Dragging this up now? Slander on good families. Eric's blood iced. Betrayal's echo, paternal edition. Jonathan shot up, chair clattering. Dad, sit down. You covered it, erased reports, threatened witnesses. For what? Your legacy. The room erupted, shouts. Flashes from a Tribune photographer in the back. Hale Sr. jabbed a finger. You ungrateful, after all you buried. Jonathan roared, face flushed. Eric nearly died. And you told me to shut up or join him. Security edged forward as father and son squared off, the board frozen. Eric stood, weaving through chaos to Jonathan's side, hand on his arm, steadying. Enough, he murmured. Not like this. Hale Sr.'s glare pinned Eric, disgust curling his lip. You, poison back in town, stirring pots. And you're the lid. Eric shot back, calm as cut glass. But lids blow off. The sheriff current, a wiry woman named Torres, intervened, escorting Hale Sr. out amid catcalls. The vote proceeded, razor-thin, 5-4 yes. Cheers erupted, hugs exchanged. Outside, rain threatened again, but the air felt cleansed. Jonathan sagged against the wall in the hallway, drained. Christ, didn't plan that fireworks. Eric pulled him into an empty classroom, door clicking shut. You were magnificent. Truth's a hell of a weapon. Their embrace was fierce, bodies aligning like puzzle edges worn smooth by time. Jonathan's lips found Eric's neck, whisper soft. Couldn't let him erase us again. In the dim light of desk lamps, they talked it out. Hale Sr.'s machinations, the lawsuit's next filings. But words gave way to touches. Fingers interlacing, foreheads pressed. Stay tonight, Eric breathed. My motel. No ghosts, just us. Jonathan nodded, vulnerability raw. Yeah, just us. The walk back was wordless, arms brushing, the town lights blurring into halos. At the motel, door shut, they shed coats and pretenses, curling on the lumpy bed with takeout Thai. Spicy noodles a poor substitute for passion, but safe. Stories flowed. Jonathan's secret sketchbooks of Elmwood reimagined, vibrant and queer. Eric's unpublished poems from hospital beds. Laughter bridged gaps, tears salting the curry. As midnight told, Jonathan traced Eric's scar with lips, not fingers. A kiss like absolution. Beautiful, he murmured. All of you. Sleep came tangled, breath sinking. But dawn brought a knock, urgent, insistent. Eric stirred, Jonathan groaning beside him. Through the peephole, a deputy, badge glinting. Mr. Harlan? Need a word. Assault reported last night. Eric's stomach dropped. Jonathan bolted up, paling. What? The deputy glanced past. Someone slashed tires on your truck, Mr. Hale, and left a note. Go back to hell, queers. Betrayal's shadow lengthened, the town clawing back. The deputy's cruiser idled outside the motel like a predator's growl. Blue lights muted but pulsing accusation. Eric yanked on jeans, heart slamming as Jonathan flung open the door, face ashen. My truck? Who? Deputy Klein. A kid barely out of academy with a buzz cut and earnest eyes, shifted uncomfortably. Found it at 5 a.m., sir. Parked by the youth center. Tires on the driver's side, and the note pinned under the wiper. Thought you'd want to know, given. Last night. Jonathan stormed out, bare feet slapping wet pavement. Eric trailing in socks that soaked through instantly. The truck, a battered Ford F-150, Hale hardware magnet on the door, sagged on slashed rubber. The cab's window spray-painted with a slanted cross. The note, scrawled on torn envelope. Faggots don't belong. Next time, it's you. Son of a... Jonathan kicked the bumper, dent blooming. This is Dad. Has to be. Klein cleared his throat. We'll dust for prints, but notes like this hard to trace. You pressing charges. Eric scanned the lot, paranoia prickling. Empty but for a stray cat slinking fence ward. Pressing forward. This proves the point. Hate's alive here. Get that note to the ACLU. It's Exhibit A. Jonathan nodded, jaw granite, but his eyes betrayed fracture. Anger laced with fear. I'll call the shop, get towed. You head to the lawyers. Eric hesitated. The morning's intimacy souring into siege. We go together. United front. The drive to Chicago's satellite office was tense. Jonathan's borrowed sedan humming north on I-65. Cornfields blurring into billboards for truck stops and Jesus billboards. Radio droned NPR. A segment on rural queer migration, stats grim as gravestones. Eric muted it, fingers drumming dash. Talk to me, John. Don't bottle. Jonathan's grip whitened on wheel. Bottle? This is my life you're appending. Dad's already calling. Voicemails ranting about family disgrace. And the shop? Customers'll bail if word spreads. Then let them. Eric's voice sharpened. You chose this last night. Backing out now? That's the real betrayal. Silence stretched, miles ticking. Finally, Jonathan exhaled. Not backing out. Just scared I'll drag you down too. Eric reached over, hand on thigh, reassuring, steady. We've been down before. Climbed out. The lawyer, Ms. Patel, a sharp-eyed firebrand in power suits, met them in a conference room smelling of fresh printouts. Vandalism's gold, she declared, snapping photos of the note. Ties to the intimidation pattern. Board votes momentum. We push for injunction on any privacy countermeasures. They strategized over bad vending coffee. Depositions from witnesses, including Jonathan's reluctant aunt who'd overheard Hale Sr.'s post-attack mutterings. By lunch, drafts circulated. Cease and desist to the mayor. Press release framing the slash as retaliation against reform. Media'll eat this, Patel grinned. You're the face, Eric. Jonathan, your insider angle? Killer. Back in Elmwood by dusk, the town simmered. Local news vans parked crooked at the courthouse, reporters sniffing blood. Jonathan dropped Eric at the motel. Kiss fierce through the window. Dinner later? Neutral, Riverside Grill. Eric nodded, watching taillights fade. Alone he paced, phone buzzing. Lila, frantic. Saw the clip. You okay? Better than okay, he texted. Winning. But doubt gnawed. The note's venom echoed the alley's jeers. Jonathan's old silence a specter. Evening brought escalation. At the grill, a roadhouse with peanut shells crunching underfoot and Willie Nelson on jukebox. Locals packed booths, eyes tracking their entrance. Jonathan waved off stairs, claiming a corner table, but tension crackled like storm static. Beers arrived, cold, foaming reprieve. To thorns and sides, Jonathan toasted, clinking. To pulling them, Eric countered. Talk veered light. Childhood pranks. The time they'd borrowed Farmer Jenkins' tractor for a midnight joyride. Laughter loosened knots. Jonathan's foot hooking Eric's under table. A secret semaphore. Then the door swung wide. A pack of men in feed caps, led by Tommy Greer, councilman's son, bulked up from mill shifts, the same Tommy who'd thrown the first punch at 16. His gaze locked, sneer curling. Well, if it ain't the prodigal pervert. And his lapdog. Booze from allies at the bar. But Greer's crew advanced, chairs scraping. Jonathan stood, broad as a wall. Walk away, Tommy. Night's young. Tommy laughed, beer breath foul. Night's over for traitors. Dad says you're poison, Hale. Time to purge. Fists clenched, but Eric rose too, voice cutting. Purge? Like '09? Grow up. Or join your dad in history's dustbin. A bottle shattered nearby, tossed, not swung. Glass skittering. Chaos bloomed, shouts, stools toppling. Jonathan shoved Tommy back, Eric dodging a wild haymaker. The bartender bellowed for order, dialing sheriff as patrons divided. Some cheering brawl, others herding calm. Torres arrived, sirens wailing, cuffing Greer and two others, the rest scattering like roaches. Again? She sighed, clipboard out. Statements. Outside, rain lashed anew. Eric and Jonathan huddled under awning, adrenaline ebbing to shivers. This is war, Jonathan muttered, arm around Eric's waist. Possessive, protective. Eric leaned in, rain mingling tears. Then we fight smart. Together. Back at the motel, barriers crumbled. Clothes shed in haste, but touches reverent. Exploring scars, both visible and veiled. No rush to frenzy. Instead, slow unraveling, bodies mapping forgiveness in whispers and sighs. Jonathan's mouth on Eric's collarbone. A vow. Never again. Dawn found them entwined, but the phone shattered peace. Patel, urgent. Leak anonymous tip to the Gazette. Claims Jonathan orchestrated the vandalism himself. Inside job to sway vote. Betrayal's blade twisted fresh. Jonathan's face drained. What? That's Dad. Has to be. Eric's trust wavered. The ghost of 16 whispering fool. Prove it. Now. The accusation hung. Alliance fracturing under suspicion's weight. The Gazette's headline screamed from vending boxes outside the motel. Insider sabotage? Hale tied to anti-reform vandalism. Grainy photo. Jonathan's truck. The note circled like damning evidence. Eric stared, coffee turning bitter in his mouth. Jonathan pacing the room like a caged wolf. Phone glued to ear. Voicemail from Dad. Fix this, boy, or you're done. Anonymous source, Jonathan snarled, tossing the paper. It's him. Always the shadows. Eric folded the article, creases sharp as doubt. Or convenient. Votes swaying. This poisons the well. You benefit if it tanks. Jonathan froze, hurt flashing. You think I'd, after last night? After us? I think 12 years taught me trust's a luxury. Eric's voice cracked, vulnerability armor cracking. Swear it, John. On whatever's left holy. Jonathan crossed to him, hands framing face. Thumbs on scars, eyes boring soul deep. I swear. On the boy I loved, the man I love still. I'd burn this town before hurting you. The kiss was desperate, sealing oaths in salt and heat. Eric yielded, belief a fragile bloom. Then we expose it. Go nuclear. By noon, they were at Tora's office, a squat brick bunker reeking of stale donuts. She leaned back, badge askew. Tip came via burner email. IP traces to the library public access. Could be anyone. Tommy Greer, Jonathan pressed. Or Dad. Check their alibis for the slash. Torres nodded, jotting. Already on it. But press is circling. Mayor's calling emergency session tomorrow. Ordnance on ropes. Eric leaned in. Use this. Call a presser. Jonathan goes public, full story, our story. Humanizes the fight. Jonathan blanched. Outed? Daddle disown. Shop's toast. Or reborn. Eric's hand found his. You're more than Hail legacy. The presser convened at the youth center, a converted warehouse with murals of diverse kids splashing walls. Cameras whirred, reporters jostling, local stringers to Chicago affiliates. Jonathan at podium, Eric offside. Patel coaching whispers. I won't let smears silence us. Jonathan began, voice steady. That note? Hate's desperate gasp. But here's my truth. I'm gay. Loved Eric Harlan then. Love him now. We were kids, scared and silent. No more. Gasps, flashes exploding. He detailed the alley, the cover-up, his regret. A narrative arc bending toward hope. Elmwood can lead, not lag. Support the ordinance. For every kid watching. Questions pelted. Marriage? Kids? Jonathan fielded with grace. Open to love, co-parenting Grace and Emma if they'll have me. Eric's chest swelled. This was courage, unscripted, but backlash brewed. Driving back, radio spat venom. Colin's raging sodomite agenda. At the hardware store, a crowd milled. Picketers with boycott betrayal signs, eggs splatting windows. Jonathan parked curbside, engine idling. Wait here. Eric followed anyway, dodging glares. Inside, chaos. Shelves toppled, registers unmanned. Jonathan's foreman, Burly Lou, waved from the counter. Boss! They trashed the back. Tools missing, graffiti everywhere. Jonathan surveyed damage, fists balled. Who? Greer's. Lou shrugged. Heard Tommy bragging at the bar. Fury ignited. Jonathan stormed out, keys jangling. Confront him. Now. They peeled toward Greer's farm, gravel spitting under tires, dusk bruising sky purple. The spread was weathered, silos leaning, porch light feeble. Tommy lounged on steps, shotgun casual across knees, beer in hand. Knew you'd come crawling. Save the John Wayne. Jonathan spat, slamming truck door. Eric flanked, pulse racing. The store. Your work. Tommy smirked, eyes slitting. Proof? Nah. But words out, hails a fag. Dad's pulling strings. Votes dead tomorrow. Councilman Greer emerged, shotgun his, face smug. Trespassing. Best skedaddle. Eric stepped forward, voice steel. Or we talk suits. Vandalism, intimidation. ACLU's hungry. Greer laughed, low. Boy, you started this. My Tommy? Just defending home. Like '09. Eric's scar throbbed. Beating a kid half to death? That's defense. Tommy surged. Shotgun forgotten. Fists flying. Jonathan intercepted. Grapple sending them tumbling into dirt. Eric lunged. Pulling Tommy off. Punch glancing jaw. Chaos reigned, grunts, dust clouds. Until Tora's cruiser lit the yard, lights strobing. Break it! She barked, cuffs snapping. Greer and Tommy subdued. Jonathan sporting a split lip. Eric's knuckles blooming red. At station, statements blurred into midnight. Torres cornered Eric in hall. Brave but stupid. Got a witness. Farmhand saw Tommy at the store, egging literally. Vindication partial. Released on bail, they limped to motel, wounds tended with ice and ibuprofen. Idiots, Eric muttered, dabbing Jonathan's lip. Worth it. Jonathan winced smile. For you. Bed claimed them, bodies spooned. Comfort over carnal. hands linked across ribs. Sleep evaded, whispers weaving dreams. Futures untethered, a cabin upstate, art and words entwined. Morning broke with victory's edge. The emergency session packed the town hall air electric. Mayor Ellis sweated through opening, but speakers shifted. Pastor Ruiz invoking Leviticus love. A student, the eyeliner boy from before, tearful testimony on locker room taunts. Jonathan testified second, bruises badges. Hate hurts everyone. Choose healing. Then Eric, closing. We bleed together or heal apart. Elmwood choose. Vote, 6-3 yes. Cheers deafened, hugs crushing. Outside, rainbows impromptu. Flags waved, strangers clasped hands. But Hale Sr. waited in the lot, gaunt in twilight, eyes hollow. John. Jonathan stiffened, Eric's hand in his. Not now. Always. The old man faltered. I saw the presser. Wrong. All wrong. For you both. Suspicion flared, but grief underlay, age's erosion. Why tell now? Seeing you fight, like I should have for Mom. Voice broke. The cover-up? Shame. But it's done. Store's yours free. Consider amends. Jonathan searched his face, walls cracking. Maybe, but trust? Earned. Hale nodded, shuffling away. Father-son fracture, mending slow. That night, celebration at the diner. Doris comping pie, locals toasting awkward. Eric and Jonathan slipped out early, river walk under stars. We did it, Eric breathed, head on shoulder. You did. Jonathan kissed temple. But the scar, reminds me, survived. For this, love bloomed quiet, roots deep in amended soil. Yet whispers lingered, betrayal's echo, a final test looming. The ordinance's ink barely dried when the real storm hit. Not rain, but revelation, crashing through Eric's inbox like a grenade. Anonymous email, timestamped 3:17 a.m. Ask your boyfriend about the fire. Attached. A scanned police report, yellowed, from 2011. Arson at the youth center's old site. Jonathan's signature on a witness statement, but redacted details screaming cover. Eric's motel room spun. Laptop glow harsh on sleepless eyes. Jonathan snored soft beside him. Arm draped possessive. Innocent in slumber, damning in dawn's light. The report detailed a blaze that gutted the center's predecessor. A safe space for at-risk kids, blamed on faulty wiring but whispers of Molotovs. Jonathan, then 21, fresh from community college, had witnessed from afar, his statement curt. Saw nothing unusual. Fire? The center? Jonathan's redemption ground? Eric's gut twisted. Betrayal's pattern, protecting skin at others' cost. He dressed quiet, slipping out for air. The Wabash mist-shrouded, mocking peace. Coffee at the diner, Doris sliding a mug unasked. Rough night, hon? Your man's lookin' peaked. Eric forced smile. Always is, these days. Mind raced. Confront now, or gather proof. The email's sender, ghost at Proton untraceable. But the fire, Eric remembered vaguely. A blip in his Chicago exile. Fundraiser please in the alumni newsletter. Jonathan texted. Where? Breakfast? Eric replied, walking. Meet at center. The youth center buzzed morning prep. Kids dribbling basketballs. Counselor Ms. Vega organizing art supplies. Jonathan arrived windswept, concern etching brows. You okay? Looked spooked leaving. Eric handed the printout wordless. Jonathan scanned, color draining. This, shit, where'd you? Doesn't matter. Explain. Jonathan sank to a bench, kids' laughter distant. Summer 11. Center was my volunteer gig trying to atone, you know? One night, closing up, saw shadows by the dumpster. Tommy and crew bottles in hand. Lit 'em. Tossed. Rage cocktail over some rally there, drag story hour or whatever. And you, Eric's voice iced. Ran. Called it in anonymous. Cops' dads, downgraded to accident. I lied in statement to protect. Thought if I named them it'd boomerang, expose me. Us, Eric echoed, scar burning. There was no us then. You ghosted me at the bus station. Remember? Too risky. So who was worth shielding? Your closet. Jonathan reached, rebuffed. Myself. Coward again. But the center rebuilt stronger. My lie helped that. Lie. Eric paced, anguish spilling. Kids lost a space because you prioritized fear. Like the alley. History's loop, John. Tears tracked Jonathan's cheeks. I know. Therapies drilled it, pattern of avoidance. But I changed. Volunteering, coming out. For you, for them. Eric halted. Conflict warring. Love's pull versus pain's push. Prove it. Tell Vega. Full truth. Let the center decide if you're poison. Jonathan nodded, broken. Okay. For real this time. Ms. Vega listened in her office, posters of empowered youth framing her shock. Jonathan. This explains the hesitance. The way you'd flinch at fire drills. She steepled fingers. We need transparency. Board'll review, but stay. Your work matters. Relief flickered, but Eric lingered outside, turmoil churning. Jonathan emerged, hopeful. She gets it. Second chance. Not all debts paid easy. Eric's tone chilled. Need space. Process. Jonathan's face crumpled. Don't please. We're close. Close to what? Another scar. Eric walked away, river calling, a bomb for breaches. Days blurred. Lawsuit advanced, depositions grinding. Hale Sr. deposed, admissions grudging. Regrets. Yes. But town's healing. Media frenzy peaked. Eric's face on CNN's sidebar. Small-town hero returns. But solitude gnawed. Jonathan's texts unanswered. Save logistics. Climax brewed at the center's relaunch gala. Ribbon cutting for the new wing. Funded by national donors buoyed by their story. Eric attended solo. Suit crisp. Speech prepped. Gratitude. Forward gaze. Crowd milled. Mayor toasting. Kids performing spoken word on identity. Raw. Riveting. Jonathan cornered him pre-event. Suit ill-fitting nerves. Heard you're speaking. Proud. Eric stiffened. Don't. The email tracked it. Library IP same as the vandalism tip. Tommy. Baiting fractures. Jonathan's eyes widened. Bastard. But we. No. Eric cut. Your lie, John. The fire? It burned trust. Before Jonathan replied, chaos erupted. Shouts from the lot. Smoke acrid. Fire, again, east wing aflame. Flames licking murals. Panic surged. Evacuations. Sirens wailing. Eric bolted toward, spotting arsonists fleeing. Tommy and shadows, cans glinting. Stop! Eric yelled, tackling one, not Tommy, a lackey wrestling to ground. Fists flew, rib cracking a new echo of '09. Jonathan arrived, hauling him off, extinguishing with extinguisher foam. Torres swarmed, Tommy cuffed fleeing fence. Inside, damage contained, smoke mostly, no injuries. But the gala shattered, donors shaken. In aftermath, boardroom huddle, Vega to Jonathan. You're past. But tonight you saved it. Hero. Jonathan waved off. Eric did. No, they did tandem. Outside, embers smoldering, Eric confronted ghosts. You ran toward fire this time. Jonathan nodded. Bruised. Learned from you. Brave's not fearless. It's choosing anyway. Eric searched eyes, finding truth unvarnished. The lie hurts, but growth? Real. Forgive. Jonathan whispered. Not yet, but try? Yes. Hand extended, clasped, bridge rebuilt, tentative. The city stirred, amends unfolding. Town Hall Queer Youth Fund, named Harlanhale. Betrayal's ashes fertilized hope. Winter gripped Elmwood in January's fist. Snow blanketing the scars, literal and civic, like a merciful veil. The Harlanhale Youth Initiative ribbon-cutting drew a crowd undeterred by flurries. Kids in puffy coats, parents bundled sheepish, national press capturing the miracle turnaround. Eric stood podium-side, breath clouding, Jonathan's presence a steady warmth at his back. No longer shadow, but partner in light. Mayor Ellis, red-nosed, snipped the tape with oversized shears, flashbulbs popping. From pain to promise, he intoned, scripted sincerity. Cheers rose, but Eric's eyes sought the quieter victories. The eyeliner boy, now Jamie, volunteering as peer mentor, his smile unshadowed. Ms. Vega beaming, center thriving post-fire, donors doubling down. Eric's speech was brief, honed. Scars remind us we're alive. This place, its heartbeat for the overlooked. Build on love, not fear. Applause thundered, Jonathan's hand finding his in the crush. Squeeze affirming, public now, unapologetic. After, they escaped to the riverbank, thermos of spiked cider shared under a willow's skirt. Snow-muffled world, cocooning. 6 months, Jonathan murmured, arm around Eric's waist. Feels like lifetimes. Eric leaned in, cheek to wool. 2 at least. The boy I was. He'd envy this. Rebuilding had been grind. Therapy tandem. Unpacking betrayals like attic trunks. Jonathan's confessions raw. Eric's angers vented in journals turned chapters for his book. The lawsuit settled mid-fall. City payout for programs. Public apology etched in resolution. Elmwood regrets failures. Recommits to all children. Hale Sr. attended the reading, silent spectator. A nod to Jonathan, his olive branch. Accepted, not embraced. Tommy Greer plea bargained. Community service at the center, irony biting. Hates it. Jonathan grinned once over burgers. But growth's gritty. Their life wove domestic. Jonathan's apartment above the hardware. Now Hale and Harlan supplies. Rainbow sticker defiant on door. Evenings blurred. Dinners of chili and cornbread. Sketching sessions where Jonathan's pencils captured Eric's quiet intensities. Words flowing reciprocal. Intimacy deepened, not in frenzy but fidelity. Mornings tangled, coffee-brewed kisses. The scar kissed like sacrament. Yet humanism's core pulsed beyond romance, community threads. They mentored, Eric's writing workshops for shy queer teens. Jonathan's basketball clinics laced with BU talks. Lila visited spring, eyeing Jonathan wary then warm. He suits you, scar and all. One April eve under dogwoods blooming pink, Jonathan knelt by the bleachers. Their origin, reclaimed. Box velvet, ring simple, silver band etched with lightning. Not proposal to tradition, he said, voice thick. To us, build forever. Eric pulled him up, kiss salt sweet. Yes, lightning rods, together. Summer brought the book, Bleeding Ground. A queer reckoning in Heartland America. Launch at the center, copies signed amid hugs. Reviews hailed. Human, harrowing, hopeful. Proceeds seeded scholarships. First recipient, Jamie, bound for NYU Theater. Fall Harvest Fair. They danced slow to fiddles, townies clapping. Acceptance earned, not granted. Hale Sr. appeared, cane tapped, Emma and Grace trailing shy. Proud, he grunted to Jonathan, hug awkward. Of the man. Eyes met Eric's. Apology unspoken, amends in action. Winter circled again, anniversary snowsoft. At the river, they toasted, cider warmed, promises renewed. Left bleeding, Eric reflected. But returned whole. Jonathan's arm tightened. We did. City 2. Elmwood breathed freer. Scars silvered, testament. From betrayal's dark, love's light endures. Human frailty forged unbreakable. In America's weave, threads queer and true, mending the tapestry one honest stitch at a time. Fade to quiet. 2 figures walking home, hands linked, future vast as Midwest skies.